The weight of the king's body almost made me fall to my knees in the middle of the hall, still hot with blood. I felt the smell of iron before I even understood what had happened. Men screamed around, some cried, others plundered like hungry dogs. And I there with the dead king in his arms, or at least that's what everyone believed. The crown had rolled away, spotted, trampled. No owner, no honor. I was nobody important, just one soldier among many, a bastard who learned to obey before he learned to speak. But at that moment, I was the one who held the man who ruled us all, or the man who had ruled your chest, didn't move. His face was pale, and there was a deep cut under the ribs, too wide. Too deep. That wasn't a battle blow. That was execution betrayal. I knew how to recognize. I spent my whole life watching men die, and that wound didn't come from the front. It came from someone he trusted, someone who was close enough not to miss someone he didn't try to avoid. I looked around, and in that chaos, no one seemed to notice what I was noticing. Or maybe everyone knew, and they pretended not to know. The castle was lost. The king's flags were being torn down and replaced by his brother's colors. The lord who swore loyalty until the last day. I spat on the floor, not out of disrespect for the king, but by understanding what was happening. He didn't die in the war. He was handed over to her. I adjusted the body on my shoulders, the blood running down my back, hot, sticky, as if he were still alive. And for a second, I thought I felt something, a slight movement, but I ignored. Fear plays tricks, and I had no room for fear. If you saw me with him, I would be killed, not as an enemy, but as a witness, and witnesses don't survive well-done betrayals. I walked through the destroyed halls, passing through bodies, some still breathing, begging I didn't stop. If I stopped, I would die together. The back gate was still open. A miracle or a trap. I chose to believe in the miracle. I always chose. That's how I survived until then. When I crossed the wall, the cold wind hit my face, and it was then, only then, that I felt again, a movement. Clearer this time, stronger. I stopped. I froze. The body on my shoulders heavy, but not inert. My heart raced, and for the first time that night, I was really scared, because dead people don't move, and if he wasn't dead, then everything I knew, everything I believed, was about to break. Part 2. I laid him down carefully, as if he could feel pain, as if that still mattered. My hands were shaking, not from weakness but in doubt. I have seen men in agony. I had already heard the last breath of many, but that was different. The cut was still there, open deep, but the blood, it no longer drained as it should. I brought my face closer to his, and I waited 1 second, 2, nothing. So I almost gave up. I almost accepted that my mind was playing tricks on me, until I saw a slight tremor of the lips. Almost nothing, but enough. I recoiled as if I had seen a specter. The king was not dead, not completely, and that was worse than anything else, 'cause now I carried more than a body. I carried a secret, and secrets like that kill faster than swords. I looked back to the castle that still burned, and I understood if they found out he was alive, they would come back to finish the job, and I would be in the middle, unnamed. No protection, no choice. I could leave it there, finish what they started. It would be easy, fast, and no one would ever know. But I didn't move because at that moment I remembered, from the day he passed me in the courtyard, I didn't say anything, didn't even look. But you didn't treat me like trash, and that, for someone like me, it was more than any oath. I tore a piece of my tunic and I pressed against the wound. He reacted. A low moan, weak but alive. Curse. I took a deep breath, knowing that my life ended there, not by death but by choice. I lifted it again, and I followed the forest trail, away from the roads, away from eyes. Every step was a sentence, every sound a threat. If someone found me, I would be accused of treason, of kidnapping, of conspiracy. And maybe it was true, because at that moment I no longer knew which side I was on. All I knew was that the king was still breathing, and that someone powerful wanted him dead. And when a king needs to flee like a thief, it means the kingdom has already fallen, even though the walls are still standing. I walked until my legs gave out, and when I finally stopped, it was dawn. The cold cut like a blade, and the silence was heavy. I laid him down next to a tree, and I watched, waiting, trying to understand. But the only thing that made sense, it was just that. None of it made sense. And then, without opening your eyes, he spoke a single word, my name. And in that moment I knew that it was no coincidence. Never been. Part 3. I had never told the king my name, never been close enough to be noticed. And still, he said it. Of course, weak, but right. My blood ran cold. I approached slowly, trying to find some sign of consciousness, but his eyes were still closed, and the breath fails like someone caught between two worlds I wanted to deny, telling myself I heard wrong, but I know my name. I know. His sound, even when whispered by death. "Who are you really?" I asked, without waiting for a response, but he responded, not with clear words, but with fragments, broken whispers, traitor inside fake crown, and then silence. I felt a weight greater than his body, a weight I couldn't carry on my shoulders, but it was already inside me. If there was a traitor, he was in the castle, among the closest, among those who now ruled. What if the king knew? So he couldn't die, not yet, but keep it alive? It was declaring war, against men I didn't even know, men with power name armies, and I a bastard with nothing except a bad choice. I spent the night awake, listening to every sound, every branch breaking, waiting for the moment when they would come to find us, but no one came, and that worried me even more because it meant they were sure he was dead, and when certainty is absolute, men stop looking. I needed help, but I couldn't trust anyone, not even those who swore to protect the king, because one of them stabbed him, and maybe more than one helped. So I did the only thing a man with no options can do. I moved on. No plan, no destination, only guided by the need to keep you breathing, even if it cost me my life. I didn't know yet, but at that moment, I had already crossed a line and there was no way back. Why save a betrayed king? It means becoming an enemy of an entire kingdom. I laid him down on the ground carefully, as if his weight could break more than bones. The early morning wind cut through my skin, wet with blood and sweat. My hands were still shaking, not from tiredness, but what I couldn't explain. I've seen men die. I had already felt the heat leaving a body until it became nothing. But there, that silence wasn't the same. I brought my ear closer to his chest. I pulled over slowly, holding your breath, hoping to hear nothing because it would be easier, much easier. But I heard, weak, irregular, almost non-existent, but there, a heart still beat. I walked away like I had caught fire. I looked at the wound again. The blade had entered with precision. Did anyone know where to hit someone trained? That wasn't anger, it was calculus. It was execution. And even so, he was still breathing. I ran my hand over my dirty face, trying to think, but every thought led to the same place. If he lives, someone will want to finish the job. And if someone finds me with it, I die before explaining anything. I should leave it there, let the night finish the work. But my legs didn't obey, because at that moment, something changed inside me. It wasn't loyalty. I never swore anything. It wasn't honor. No one ever taught me that. It was something else, something older, more instinctive, as if abandoning that man would condemn me more than any sword. I tore another piece of the tunic. I pressed hard against the cut. He reacted again. A low sound escaped his throat, a sign of pain, and pain means life. I took a deep breath, and I started working with the little I knew. I pressed the wound. I tied the fabric I held on until my arms burned. The blood decreased. Didn't stop, but it decreased. It was enough. It had to be. I looked around. The forest was still dark, but the sky was starting to lighten, and with the light, men would come, patrols, survivor hunters. I couldn't be there when that happened. I lifted it again. This time more carefully. I adjusted his body on my shoulders, feeling every weak breath against my neck, and I started walking without looking back. Every step was heavy, but I continued, deeper in the woods where horses don't go, where soldiers avoid, where men disappear. The floor was damp, the treacherous roots, and twice I almost fell. But I didn't let go, couldn't let go, 'cause if he touched the ground again, I knew I wouldn't have the strength to lift it again. Time passed, strangely, formless, without measure, just pain, just effort, until I found an old cabin forgotten among the trees, almost falling apart but still standing. I didn't think twice. I pushed the door with my shoulder. The wood creaked too loudly. I froze, waiting for response. Nothing, just silence. I entered. I placed it on a wooden table covered in dust. I looked around quickly. Nothing of value in of us, but there was a bucket and a remnant of old cloth. It was enough. I came back to him, and this time I really looked. The face, the marked beard, the cold skin, the color of a man who should already be dead, and still he fought. I wiped the blood slowly. I removed the excess. The wound looked even worse up close. Too deep, but it didn't reach the heart. For a little, very little luck doesn't explain it. Something else was at stake. I felt it, even without understanding. When I finished cleaning, he moved again, stronger. The head turned slightly, the lips opened, and then without opening your eyes, he spoke again. But this time it wasn't my name, it was an order. Low, almost inaudible but clear. Don't trust. I stopped, the cloth still in hand, the heart beating strong. Don't trust anyone, I asked without realizing, but he didn't respond. Silence returned. Heavy, dense. I looked at the door, then for him, and I understood this wasn't just survival, it was a warning. And if even a dying king says not to trust, so the danger wasn't just out there, he was everywhere. And for the first time since it all began, I realized who saved that man. Maybe it was the least of my problems. Those words never left my head. Don't trust, simple, dry, but heavy as a sentence. I stood there for a while looking at him, trying to understand if that was a delusion or a warning. But something inside me had already decided that was true, because dying men don't lie. They don't have time for that. I walked away from the table. I ran my hand over my face, trying to organize thoughts. But the more I thought, but everything got worse if I couldn't trust anyone, so I was alone with a nearly dead king and a kingdom that had already chosen another owner. I walked to the door. Opened slowly, I looked outside. The light was already touching the treetops. The day was coming. And with him, the eyes, the ears, the blades. I needed more than luck. I needed time. And time was the only thing I didn't have. I went back inside. I closed the door, and I started to search the place more carefully. The cabin looked abandoned for years, but there were signs that someone passed by not long ago. Recent ash on the fireplace, a leftover stale bread, almost erased footprints on the dirt floor. Someone used that place, and I could come back. I didn't know if this was good or bad, but I knew I couldn't be surprised. I dragged a bench to the door, not to stop but to listen. Any movement would make the wood creak, and that would give me a second, a single second, maybe enough. I returned to the king. I changed the wound cloth. The blood still escaped, but slower. He was fighting, and that irritated me, because the more he fought, but I sank into it. I didn't ask for this. I never asked for anything. I always accepted what came, but that was pushed on me, and now I couldn't let go. I sat next to him. I leaned my back against the wall, and for the first time since the battle, I closed my eyes just for a moment, but it was enough, because when I opened it again, something was wrong. The air had changed, heavy, too silent. I didn't hear the door. I didn't hear footsteps, but I felt someone was there. My hand went straight to the knife, slow. Without making a sound, I looked up, and I saw a figure standing in the dark corner of the cabin, property observing. I didn't know how long ago, not even how you got, but I knew I wasn't alone. Who is there? My voice was low, controlled but ready. The figure took a step forward. The light touched the face, and I recognized, not by name, but for the type. He was no ordinary soldier. Upright posture, watchful eyes, hands too clean for someone from the forest, a trained man. And worse, a man who didn't seem surprised. He already expected to find me. You took your time, he said, as if that were an arranged date. My grip on the knife tightened. You entered without being seen, I replied, trying to buy time. He ignored. His eyes went straight to the table, to the king's body, and then they came back to me, confirming something he already knew. So it's true. He is alive. My stomach sank. Those words weren't a question, and that meant one thing: I was followed, or was I predicted? Neither option was good. I got up slowly, putting myself between him and the king without realizing, without planning, but already doing. You should have let him die, he continued. No emotion, no anger, just fact-like. You're telling me the sky was gray? I didn't respond, because any answer would be wrong, and he knew it. Always know men like him who sent you? I asked. And this time he smiled, but it wasn't a good smile. It was the kind of smile that comes before the blade. You already know, he said. And in that moment I really knew. Not by name, but for sure. The traitor was not just any man. It was someone big enough to send hunters like that. Someone who left no loose ends. And it was a loose end. Breathing. The man took another step. His hand moved, quick-kneed. And I understood that wasn't talk. Never been. It was execution. And this time, I was the target. I didn't think my body acted before my mind caught up with what was happening. His blade came straight for my throat, quick, clean. Without hesitation, I narrowly missed. I felt the cold steel wind passing by so close it burned my skin. Retreat was not an option. If I gave space, he would finish. So I advanced with the short knife he had always carried. No refined technique, no elegance, just survival. Our bodies collided, the wood of the table creaked behind me. The immobile king among us, like a burden and a reason. He was better. This became clear in the first movement. His every blow had intent. Every step was calculated. He didn't fight in a hurry. I definitely fought. I could barely keep up. I blocked an attack. I made another mistake. I felt the cut tear my arm, hot, immediate. But I ignored. Pain comes later. It always comes later. I tried to hit his side. He anticipated, grabbed my wrist, twisting hard. I heard something click. I almost screamed. But I used the impulse. I turned my body and I hit his chest with my shoulder. We fell together to the dirt floor. The dust rose, mixing with the smell of blood. He tried to get up first. I didn't let. I stuck the knife down without aiming straight, without thinking. The blade met flesh, but not deep enough. He growled low, and he responded with a sharp blow to my face. My vision went dark for an instant. The taste of iron filled my mouth. I rolled to the side. Narrowly escaping another blow, I got up, staggering, heavy breathing, arm throbbing, and he was already standing, almost intact, as if it were routine, as if killing was just another task of the day. "You are not a soldier," he said. Observing, analyzing. I spat blood on the floor and I held the knife tighter. "I am enough," I replied, even though I knew it might not be. He advanced again, faster this time. No test, no pause. I retreated, I dodged, I made a mistake. I felt another cut, this time on the rib, shallow but painful. He was pushing me, tired of me, waiting for the error, and I knew the error would come. Always comes. The question was when and what would happen next. My feet hit the side of the table. No space, no way out. The king's body just a few steps away, and in that moment something has changed. Not outside of me, but inside. I couldn't beat that man, not the way he expected. So I stopped fighting like him. I stopped backing down when he came. I advanced straight, ignoring the defense. Ignoring the risk, I let his blade in, feel the steel tear my side deep hot. But I used proximity. I grabbed his arm, I pulled, and I stuck my knife where I could. Once, two, three. No precision, no technique, just strength, just despair. He tried to break free, tried to react, but it was too late. His breathing hitched. The eyes changed from control to surprise. And then for nothing, the body lost strength and fell heavily against me. I held it for a second, like I'm still fighting, until you realize that it was over. I pushed him to the floor. I walked away, panting, the blood dripping from me from the floor of everything. The cabin was silent again, but it wasn't the same silence. It was heavier, more definitive. I looked at the dead man, and I understood what that meant. He was not a simple hunter. He knew where to find me. I knew what I was carrying, and it didn't come alone by chance. He came because someone knew, and if anyone knew, others would also know. It was just a matter of time. I leaned on the table, trying not to fall. The world spinning, the weak body, but still standing, still alive, just like the king. I looked at him, still motionless, still breathing, for a little, always close. And then I realized something I hadn't seen before. On the dead man's neck, a symbol engraved in dark metal, a seal, small. But of course I knew that. Even though I've never played, it was the mark of the king's brother's personal guard, the closest men, the most loyal, or at least those who pretended best. My stomach turned. I was no longer suspicious. It was certain the betrayal was not hidden. She was on top, and I had just killed living proof of that, or the dead proof, which made everything even worse. I ripped the seal off his neck. I kept it with me without knowing why, but feeling that it would still have weight. If I lived long enough to use, I ripped more fabric. I trapped my own wound. Badly done, badly tight, but enough to carry on. Why stop? It was no longer a choice. Never been. I returned to the king. I watched his face, pale but firm, as if even unconscious he still refused to die. And I understood this wasn't just survival. It was war, even if no one else knew yet. And in the middle of it all, I, a nameless bastard, I had just chosen a side. No turning back, no forgiveness, no way out. His body was still warm when I pulled away, but it no longer mattered. Men like that leave traces even after they die, and I could feel they were already coming. Maybe they didn't know exactly where, but they knew enough. I looked at the seal on my hand, dark, heavy, marked with the coat of arms that I had only seen from afar on the castle's banners, the mark of the king's brother's personal guard. There was no longer any doubt. This wasn't a war over territory. It was a power grab, planned, silent, and almost perfect. Almost. I closed my hand around the seal and I kept it close to my chest, as if that could protect me or condemn me even more. Maybe both. I went back to the table. The king was still breathing, weak but firm, like a man who refuses to give in even when his body has given up. I needed to get him out of there. The cabin was no longer a shelter. It was a trap. The blood on the floor, the fallen body, everything screamed danger. I searched around fast. I took what little I could use, a half-full canteen, a piece of hard bread, an old cloak hanging on the wall. I covered the king with it, not because of the cold, but to hide your face. If someone saw us, maybe you wouldn't recognize it right away. Maybe. I lifted it once again, and this time my body almost failed. The pain in my side was throbbing hard. Every movement ripped air from my lungs, but I didn't let go. Couldn't if I fell now. It all ended there. No story, no revenge, no truth. I left the cabin without looking back. The forest looked different now, more alive, more attentive, as if he knew what I was carrying. I followed a more closed path, avoiding open trails, avoiding any sign of human passage. My feet sank into the damp earth. The roots made me trip, but I continued. It always continued. Time has lost shape again. There was only the next step, and after him another and another, until the sound appeared. Distant, weak at first, but unmistakable. Horses. More than one, moving fast in search. My entire body froze for a moment. I looked around. No clear options, no visible shelter. Just trees, shadows, and floor. I went down a small incline, sliding on the ground, almost falling, until I find a lower stretch, a depression hidden between thick roots. It was little, but it was something. I lay there, cover with leaves, with loose soil, with everything I could achieve. No care without perfection. Just hurry. I threw myself to the side, holding your breath, forcing the body to remain still. Even with the pain burning, the sounds got closer. Hooves against the earth. Low voices, firm, trained men. They were not ordinary soldiers, I could feel. They passed close, very close. I heard one of the voices, cold, controlled. He was here. Fresh blood. Another responded, search. He won't go far carrying weight. Heart was beating so loud I was sure they could hear. But I didn't move. Not a muscle. Not a sound. Nothing. Time dragged on. Every second a blade. Until little by little, the sounds began to drift away. First the horses, then the voices, until only the wind remains, and the sound of my own body struggling not to collapse. I waited longer, much more than seemed necessary, until you're sure. So I moved. Slowly, cautious, I removed the leaves from the king's face. He was still there, still breathing, always close. I let out a breath I didn't even know I was holding, and for a moment, just a moment, I thought about laughing because that was too absurd. A bastard hiding in the mud, protecting a betrayed king, while the kingdom itself hunted him. But the laughter didn't come, because the truth weighed more. They were close, organized, and they wouldn't stop. I got up with difficulty. I pulled the king back onto my shoulders, and that's when I noticed something that shouldn't be there. A mark on his wrist, dark, almost hidden. Beneath the dried blood, a symbol burned into the skin, old, that I had already seen once a long time ago. First of all, before the war, before understanding anything, and when I recognized, my stomach turned to ice, because that symbol didn't belong to the king. It belonged to something older, most dangerous, something that shouldn't exist there. And if that was marked on him, so what did I carry? It wasn't just a wounded man. It was a truth that someone tried to erase from the world, and I was in the middle of it without understanding, no choice. And every step I took, it took me deeper into something that had already been decided long before me. The mark on his wrist was not recent. The surrounding skin was healed, but the symbol remained dark, as if it had been engraved deeper than flesh. I ran my finger over it slowly, feeling the irregular relief, and a memory came, not as a clear memory, but as a feeling, an ancient cold. I already had seen that before, not in kings, not in nobles, but in men who disappeared, men who had no right to a name. I moved my hand away quickly, as if touching that could mark me too. It didn't make sense, did nothing. A king with the mark of the damned, a traitor within one's own blood, and I'm in the middle, carrying everything without understanding anything I needed. Answers, but answers require people, and people weren't safe. He said, "Don't trust," and every step confirmed it. I kept walking slower now. The weight on my shoulders seemed to double, not just for the body, but from what I knew, or thought you knew. The sun had already risen. The light passed through the trees, revealing more than I wanted to see. Marks on the floor, ancient footprints, forgotten paths, and then I found something I didn't expect. A narrow trail, almost erased, but there used by someone who knew how to hide. It wasn't a road. It wasn't a soldier's route. It was the path of those who don't want to be seen. I hesitated. Following that was trusting someone I didn't know, but being exposed was worse. I followed, carefully observing every detail, every broken branch, every signal. The trail took me deeper until the sound of water appears. Weak at first, then clearer. A stream. Running water means life, but also danger, because others think the same. I went down to him. I knelt with difficulty. I drank without thinking, the dry, burning throat. Then I wet a cloth. I wiped the king's face. He reacted weak, but he reacted. His eyes opened for an instant, cloudy, lost but alive. He tried to focus on me as if looking for something or confirm, and then he spoke with effort, dragging each word. "They know." My body stopped. Who? I asked, even though I knew there might not be an answer. He took a deep breath, in pain, and said, "Blood." The word was in the air, heavy, incomplete, but enough to make everything worse. Whose blood? Then I didn't know, and he didn't continue. The eyes closed again, as if every word cost more than he could afford. I stood there for a moment, the sound of running water, and that one word spinning around in my head. Blood, betrayal, brand. Everything started to come together, but not in a way that I understood, in a way that left me more lost. I needed to move. Staying there was a mistake. I got up, I pulled him back, but before leaving, I saw, across the creek, a figure. Stop observing property. Different from the, not visibly armed but not defenseless. The kind of man who doesn't need to show a blade to be dangerous. He didn't advance, didn't speak, just looked at me, as if you already knew me, as if you were waiting. I held the knife, even though I knew it might not be enough, and I waited. The wind passed between us, moving the leaves, carrying the sound of water, but he didn't move. So finally he spoke. "You carry more than you think." The calm voice. No direct threat, but full of certainty. I didn't respond, I just observed. He took a step forward. "Still keeping distance. If you want him to live, you will need me." My grip on the knife tightened. "Don't trust." The king's voice came back to my mind. Strong. "Clara." I spat on the floor next, and I responded. "So tell me why I shouldn't kill you now." He wasn't offended, didn't back down. He just tilted his head slightly. "Because if you do, he dies before the next sunrise." Just like that. No emotion, no rush. As someone who doesn't need convincing, because you already know the result. Looked at the king in my arms, then to the man in front, and I felt again that choice heavy. No clean way out. Trusting was dangerous, but deny. Maybe it would be worse. And at that moment I realized that surviving was no longer just about running away. It was deciding who not to trust first, because everyone there, somehow they had already put me in a game that started long before I was born, and it wouldn't end with a simple escape through the forest. I didn't put down the knife, but I didn't move forward. Either I stayed there with the king in your arms and that man across the water, as if the whole world had shrunk to that point. He didn't look like the others. I wasn't in a hurry to kill, not even the look of someone who hunts. It was worse. He was the kind of man who knew the end before it began. "You said he dies." I spoke low. "Controlling your breathing. Tell me how to stop." He watched the king for a moment, as if confirming something I already suspected, and then he replied, "The cut was not made to kill quickly. It was made to drain, to weaken, to ensure that even alive he doesn't survive." I felt the truth in the words, because the king's body already showed this. He was slowly disappearing, and I couldn't stop it alone. "Is there a way to close?" I asked, harder than I wanted. He nodded slowly, but not. With cloth and brute force, he needs fire and herbs, and someone who knows what they're doing. I took a step back without realizing, are suspicious. And, he didn't smile. But there was something there. Something that wasn't a lie. I know enough to keep him alive. Enough. It was no guarantee. But it was more than I had. I looked around. The forest remained silent. But that didn't mean safety. It meant waiting. How long, I asked. He responded without hesitation. Less than a day after that. Even I can't, I closed. My eyes for a moment feeling the weight of the decision. The king's warning still echoing. Don't trust. But his body in my arms said something else. If I don't do anything, he dies. Just like that. I opened my eyes, and I made the decision. Not because I trusted, but because there was no other choice. You come in front, I said. If you try anything, I cut you before you fall. He accepted. No arguing, as if I expected exactly that. He crossed the stream calmly, water hitting boots without looking away from me. Close he looked even stranger. Not for appearance, but due to the absence of signs, no symbol, no color, no loyalty mark. Like a man who doesn't belong anywhere or everyone at the same time. He looked at the king's wound closely, without touching first, just evaluating. And then he finally spoke. We need shelter, and hot. There's a place half an hour away. Hidden. I hesitated, one more time, but I had already taken the first step. Now it was time to follow, or lose everything. He started walking without looking, back as if you knew I would, and I went, keeping distance, keeping the knife ready. Every step beside him was a threat, but also a chance. The trail he followed was even more closed, more hidden. I wouldn't have found it alone, which meant one thing. He knew that forest very good. We walk in silence, just the sound of footsteps and the king's failing breath. Until we arrived. A low stone structure, almost buried, covered in roots and moss, invisible from a distance. He entered first, without ceremony, and I followed right behind. The inside was dark but dry, and there were clear signs. Someone used that place. Often he lit a quick fire. With practice, without hesitation, the light revealed more of space. Simple tools, bottles, hanging dried herbs. That was no coincidence. It was preparation. You already expected this, I said, without taking your eyes off him. He didn't respond right away. Just started working on the wound, opening the cloth, exposing the flesh. The blood flowed again. Darker now, slower, but still. Dangerous, I waited, but he didn't speak. So I repeated firmer. You already expected. He stopped for a second, and then said, I expected him to be betrayed, but not so soon. My entire body tensed. So you knew. I took a step forward, the raised knife. He looked up, calm, no fear. I know more than you know, but if you want answers, he needs to live. The logic was cruel, but it was true. If I killed that man, I would have doubts, and a dead king. If I let it live, maybe I would get answers. Or maybe I would gain another traitor. I lowered the knife slowly, but I didn't keep. He went back to work, mixing herbs, preparing something thick. The smell was strong, bitter. He applied it directly to the wound. The king reacted instantly, the whole body tensing, a low sound escaping, pain. A lot of pain, but that was good. It meant there was still strength. Hold him, the man said. I held firmly, feeling the king's body fight. Against the pain, against death, against everything. And at that moment, as blood and fire mixed, I understood this wasn't about escaping anymore. It was about discovering who he really was. And why did so many men want him dead? Even after they have already won, because no one hunts a dead man, unless he's still a threat, and the king in my arms, even almost lifeless. It was still the biggest threat of all. The smell of meat being sealed filled the air, bitter, heavy, hard to ignore. I held the king's body tighter as he squirmed, muscles trying to react even without full awareness, the pain pulling him back, as if death itself was being pushed out. The man didn't hesitate, pressed the hot mixture directly into the cut. No mercy, no pause. He knew exactly what he was doing, and that bothered me, because no one learns that by chance. Where did you learn this from? I asked. Without taking your eyes off, he continued the work. Calm, concentrate. And he answered as if the question had no weight. With men who couldn't die yet. The answer was in the air. Strange, ambiguous, but full of truth. I didn't insist that moment, because the only thing that mattered was to keep the king breathing. The blood stopped flowing. Not completely, but enough not to take him away there. The man finished. tied the wound with tight straps, and then finally walked away. Observing, waiting. Silence returned, Ma, only now it was different. Denser, fuller, I still held the king, feeling his heat, weak but present. He will live, I said, more for me than for anyone else. The man slightly tilted his head. If no one else tries to kill him first, that was no consolation. It was a warning I released slowly, resting his body on the fabric-covered stone. My hands were covered in blood from his, of the man I killed, of my own, all mixed. No distinction, as if it no longer mattered who owned what. I wiped it on the mantle, without thinking, and I got up. The pain in my body returned at once, strong, impossible to ignore, but still smaller than what came after. Now speak, I said, direct, without beating around the bush. Did you know about the betrayal? Did you know about the... And it's here, waiting. Who are you? He stared at me, for longer this time, as if deciding as much as I could bear. Before breaking, I am not your enemy, he said, and it made me laugh. A short laugh, no humor. They all say that before they try to kill me. He didn't react. It just continued. I served as father, before you were born, before many men who wear crowns today knew how to hold a sword. My gaze went to the king. Then he came back to him. Lie, I said, because if it were true, you would be dead like everyone else. He shook his head slowly. Not everyone dies when they should. Some are left alive for reasons that don't make sense at the time, but they do it later. I took a step forward, feeling the tension rise again. So explain. Because the king carries a mark that belongs to men erased from history. That question changed the air. I saw for the first time a failure in his control. Small, but there. He looked at the king's fist, as if confirming that I had actually seen. And then he took a deep breath before responding, because he wasn't born to be king. The words were simple, but they broke something inside me. I was silent, waiting for the rest. But he continued. He was chosen, tagged, prepared for something bigger than the throne, and that's what your brother found out. The world seemed to shrink. The pieces started to move, but they still didn't fit. Chosen for what I asked. Lower now, more attentive. He hesitated, and it pissed me off. Speak, I pressed, but he didn't answer. Directly just said, for something that cannot exist as long as he lives. That was no answer. It was more of a shadow. One more secret, and I already had too many secrets in my hands before I could insist. The king moved again, but this time, different, stronger. The eyes opened, slow, heavy, but aware. He looked around, confused for a moment, until you find my face, and then the other man's. And in that second, I saw something I didn't expect. Don't be afraid. No pain, but recognition. He knows you, I said. The man did. Not respond, but I didn't need. The king tried to speak, the voice breaking but firm enough too late. The words came out slurred, but loaded. I approached. What is too late? I asked, but he didn't look at me. Eyes fixed on each other. And then he said, they have already started. The silence fell heavy, and this time none of us knew what came next. But we all feel. Whatever it was, I was already moving, and I wasn't going to stop because of a wounded king. Not even a bastard trying to understand his place in a war that shouldn't exist. The silence after those words would not empty. It was heavy, full of meaning. They have already started. I felt it go through my chest like a slow blade. It was not a future threat. It was something that was already happening. Now, while I was still trying to understand, while he still struggled to breathe, I looked at the man next to me, looking for any reaction, but he only confirmed with a slight nod of his head, as if that was expected, as if the delay was the only surprise. What did they start? I asked harder, more urgent, but it was the king who answered. The weak voice, dragged, but loaded with something I'd never heard before. Fear. The purge. The word fell like a stone. I didn't understand right away, but I felt the weight. I felt the danger. What a purge. I pressed. The king tried to get up. The body failing I held, I kept him steady, and he continued. They don't just want the throne, they want to erase everything. My gaze turned to the man he completed. Those marked. The air turned. Cold. Even with the fire lit, I looked again at the king's fist for the burnt symbol, and then everything started to fall into place. Not completely, but enough. The mark was not punishment, it was identification, and who carried he was hunted. Since always, that's why men disappeared. That's why no one spoke. That's why everything seemed forgotten. It was not oblivion, it was cleaning. And now it was on a larger scale. His brother found out, I said, almost like a statement. The man nodded and decided to end what? With, "It started long before you were born." I took a deep breath, feeling the pressure increase. So it's not just him. I looked around as if the forest could respond. "How many?" I asked. The man responded without emotion. "More than you could find. Less than they want left." That didn't help, but it said it all. They were killing everyone who carried that mark. No distinction, no judgment. And the king, it was no exception. It was the main. I came back to him. He was looking at me now. For real, not like before. There was awareness, decision, and something more. Something I didn't expect. "Escolla, did you know?" I said. The lowest voice, more controlled. "Did you know all this?" He didn't deviate. Knew enough. The answer irritated me. Enough to let men die. I pressed. He breathed hard and replied, enough to try to stop, but not fast enough. His words were no defense, they were weight he carried before me. And now it was in my hands too. Why me? I released without planning, without thinking. "Why did you say my name in the forest?" Without ever seeing me. His gaze didn't waver, and that bothered me more than anything else because he didn't seem surprised by the question. Seemed prepared. "I've already seen you," he said, and it didn't make sense. "I've never been close," I retorted. He denied it with a slight movement. Not as a man, but as a brand. The world seemed to stop. For a second, those words didn't fit. They shouldn't. But still, they found a place inside me, I felt, before you even understand. An old memory, a forgotten pain, something on my skin, something I never questioned. My hand went to my own arm, instinctive searching, and there, hidden, almost erased by time, a dash, a sign, weak, but real. I pulled the sleeve hard, revealing more, and the blood ran cold. It wasn't like his, but it was similar. Enough not to be a coincidence. The man next to me watched. No surprise, as if you already knew. "Of course," he said low. "Now it makes sense." I didn't hear the rest, because everything inside me changed in that instant. I wasn't protecting a king's. I was protecting someone like me. Or worse, I was protecting the reason I'm still alive since always, without knowing. "How many like me?" I asked, the voice breaking for the first time. The king replied, "Few and decreasing." I closed my hand, feeling something grow inside me. Something that wasn't fear, no more. It was something else, hotter, more dangerous. "So they won't stop," I said. "More for me than for them," the man confirmed. "Not while there's someone breathing with that mark." I looked at the king, then into my own. Hand stained with blood, marked by something I never understood until now. And at that moment, everything became clear in a cruel way. I wasn't running away. I've never been. I was being taken step by step, to the center of something that had already chosen my destiny long before I had a choice. And now that I knew, there was no way to go back to being anyone, because no one, not hunted from birth, and I've always been, without knowing. Until now, I always thought I survived by luck, by instinct, for knowing how to put your head down at the right time. But there, with the mark exposed on my skin, I understood it was never luck. It was never random. I was spared, forgotten on purpose, left alive. Until now, my gaze returned to the king. He still watched me, even weak, right on the edge, as if he already knew what I was thinking, as if I had been waiting for this moment since before I existed. "So that's it," I said low, feeling every word weigh. "They don't just want you, they want us all." He nodded slowly. "Few, minimum movement, but enough. They always wanted. But now they have reason." The man next to us added, "They found old records, lists, brands, blood are hunting with precision now. It's no longer chance. It's no longer silence. It's the end." The word was in the air. End. Simple, direct, irreversible. I ran my hand over my face, feeling tired. The pain, but most of all, feeling something I've never felt before. Clarity. It all made sense now. The deaths, the disappearances, the fear that no one knew how to explain. It was all part of it. It always was. And I walking in the middle, without seeing, without understanding, until it's too late. I looked at the man. "Did you know about me?" I said. Not as a question, but how sure he confirmed. I searched for years, not knowing who was left, not knowing who had survived. And you were there in the middle of the army. Invisible. How it should be. I laughed. But there was no humor. "So you used me too." He didn't deny. "I watched you. I waited. Because if you didn't have that brand, I would have died like the others." But he didn't die. And that said it all. I took a step forward, the pain almost knocking me down, but I continued. And now? What happens? I asked Guy. The king answered before him. Now, you choose, just like that without beating around the bush. No consolation. Choose. Like I still have a lot of options, I looked outside, the light was already changing. The day advancing, and somewhere, men were riding, burning, killing, erasing everything that carried that mark. If I ran away, it would only be a matter of time. If I hid, they would find, as they always found. But there was another option, one I never considered. Until now, I turned my gaze to the king, for the man who almost died, for the symbol he carried, for the same weight that was now on me. And then I understood. Why was he still alive? It was no coincidence. It wasn't a failure. It was necessary. They want to erase. I said, the firm voice for the first time. So someone needs to remember. The man next to me looked more closely. Something new, like I'm seeing. Something he expected, but I wasn't sure. And the king, even weak, even with almost no strength, smiled. Not out of joy, but of recognition. You don't understand yet, he said, the voice breaking, but firm enough. You are not just one of the marked. The air got heavy again, I felt. Before listening, something else was coming. Something worse or greater. I was silent, waiting, and he continued. You are the last one who can lead. Those words didn't hit me right away. They took a long time, slowly, and when they made sense, I wanted to deny, I wanted to laugh, I wanted to reject, but I couldn't, because everything around, everything inside me said that was true. I was nobody I've never been. But now it didn't matter anymore, because the world doesn't see who you were, just what you represent. And I represented something they wanted to erase. I closed my eyes for a moment. I took a deep breath, and when I opened, the decision had already been made. Not for courage, not for honor, but because there was. No different way, I won't run away, I said, bass but firm. The man nodded as if I expected exactly that. Then you will die, he replied. Direct, no emotion. I shook my head slowly. Maybe, but not today. The king made a slight sound, almost a laugh, mixed with pain, and then said, so start now. I got up, even with the body failing, even with the hot blood still flowing, and I went to the entrance. I looked at the forest, for the world that didn't yet know, for the war that was already happening, and for the first time I didn't feel afraid, I felt purpose. They came like hunters thinking they were eliminating what was left, but they made a mistake, because they didn't understand that by leaving me alive, they weren't putting out the flame they were feeding. And now I knew I wasn't the end of anything. I was the beginning, and this time, they were the ones who would be hunted.